Greetings, distinguished followers, chosen chimp here, and welcome to my review of the Interstellar Song Contest, episode 6 in the brand new series of Doctor Who. I hope you are all doing well. Just to let you know, this review will contain spoilers, so if you haven't watched it and you want to watch it, then don't watch this, but then go and watch it and then come back and watch this so we can all talk about it together over a crisp cold glass of Skull Shandy. That's not product placement, by the way. So, here we are, we're almost there. The Doctor and Belinda need to make one more pit stop to triangulate the TARDIS's position to that ominous date of May 24th, 2025 via the Vindicator, and that takes them to the Harmony Arena, which is hosting this year's edition of the Interstellar Song Contest. How very timely. It is about 4 to 5 seconds before the Doctor and Belinda get roped into the excitement and decide to stick around to watch the show, and it's a good job that they did. Trouble is afoot. The show has been hijacked. The bubble has been popped. Gravity, or Mavity if you like, has taken leave of its senses, and everything has turned into a big apocalyptic, nightmarish disaster where it seems as though 300,000 people have been killed instantly, including perhaps the Doctor. Oh no! Right, so lots to talk about in this episode. You see, this is the disadvantage of reviewing things so close to the time that you've watched them, because my head is spinning. I feel like there's a lot to get through here, and I'm struggling to know where to even start. So we are at the last pit stop before the two-part season finale. We are still in the section of Series 15, which is written by guest writers, and this week's episode is written by Juno Dawson. Juno Dawson is Doctor Who's first ever openly transgender writer for TV Doctor Who, which is an excellent achievement. Now, am I going to give Juno Dawson a special shout out? Regardless of what I think of the episode? Yes, I do believe I am. You see, recently in the news and everything else, the hatred towards trans people seems to have hit fever pitch in a lot of nightmarish, horrible ways. So I think that any opportunity people can get to give praise to the trans community should be taken. So I am going to give Juno Dawson a super big shout out for being the first openly transgender woman to write for Doctor Who, and I am also going to extend that shout out to all the trans people watching my video right now. You are welcomed, your opinions are respected and loved, and I will do everything in my power always to make this channel a safe space for trans people, whoever they are, and that is my absolute pledge. So welcome all of you, and I hope you are doing safe and well given the circumstances. Big love. So Juno Dawson has written this episode as a kind of homage, in case you didn't tell, to the Eurovision Song Contest, and this episode itself is being transmitted on the same day as the 2025 Eurovision Song Contest. Full disclosure, Eurovision does kind of embody a side of celebrity culture that doesn't particularly appeal to me personally. This guy, his name's Rylan in the show. Cool character, good fun. I like him, he's good fun. I'm aware that he's famous outside of this. I've seen his face. I don't know if his name's Rylan in real life. I have no idea. He lives in a sector of the kind of glitzy, sparkly celebrity TV culture that just doesn't appeal to me personally. However, if I said to you that there haven't been occasions where myself and my wife haven't had a few drinks on a Saturday night and watched Eurovision for a laugh, then I would be lying to your face. So, all fun and games. I was excited by the premise of this episode going in, and I was excited to see what it might be hiding, what secrets might be lying in. I knew it wouldn't just be a straight up story about a homage to Eurovision. I knew that there would be more to that. So going into this, I was very excited. I had bated breath. After all, this series has been basically a belter so far. So I was pleased to see that very shortly after this episode is introduced, it is thrown into chaos. The crew behind the scenes are held hostage by Kid, who has commandeered the androids, and the guns are pointing at all the people who have the power to stop the transmission, and the Mavity bubble has been opened. Everything turns red, and 300,000 people float up into space. Those shots of all the people are very apocalyptic and nightmarish, the kind of thing that you'd see on a finale of Game of Thrones or something like that, except it's Doctor Who, so you know they're not actually going to kill off that many people. Doctor Who is never that bloodthirsty, but for that moment, I mean, seeing those particular shots of all the people floating up, it is quite stomach turning. I thought it was quite nightmarish. My face was glued to see what happened next, and the way it juxtaposed with the bubbly Interstellar Vision pop song that was going on at the same time. Great stuff. So it got me hooked. The Doctor got pulled out into space and supposedly frozen, along with Rylan, the presenter. The transmission has been replaced with like a screen test, a dress rehearsal thing. So the 3 trillion large audience around the western end of the galaxy are none the wiser. And yeah, so begins the story. Seems as though Belinda is on her own for a bit. She panics, which I thought was a little bit out of context at first, because Belinda has usually been pretty headstrong despite the adversity and horrors that she has faced. You know, the incel worship, threats of being turned into a robot, the racial discrimination of being in 1940s Florida, being shot, which happened in the well. She's taken all that in a stride, but this time she panics, and I guess it's because the Doctor's not there, and she presumes the Doctor's dead, and she's trapped, and she misses her mum and dad. So I get it. I think maybe it all caught up with her, which it would, you know. So she has a bit of a nervous breakdown, and I'm not going to hold that against her, given what she's been put through, and she's quick to recover, so all good. So the character Kid is kind of the first thing that I'm going to lock onto and criticise to a degree, because so Kid's backstory is he is from the planet Hellier. Hellier's history is one of a certain level of misrepresentation and discrimination, so much to the point where people in this contest who are working behind the scenes are propagating this myth that they are into witchcraft and cannibalism. And we know enough about this new gloss that Doctor Who has that this obviously isn't truly representative of the culture. That's blatant BS. And the singer Kora Saint Balver, who is the vocal star of this year's Interstellar contest, says something along the lines of that is misrepresentation. Good, okay, so that's nice and three-dimensional. So straight away you get the impression that Kid is has a downtrodden past. He is part of a race that has been basically not just marginalised and misrepresented, but also has had their entire planet pillaged for a very crass and tacky reason at the hands of a big corporation. Now, the problem I have with Kid is the problem that I had with characters like Conrad Clark. It's kind of no use making villains out of these people if you're at the same time going to give them a sympathetic backstory, okay? The audience should sympathise with him, not hate him. However, again, I'm going to give it a bit of a pass with Kid, because a bit later on in the story they kind of put his personality into a bit more of a grounded perspective, and there's an interesting little juxtapose with his methodology and the methodology of one of the other characters, which I will get to in just a moment. It might appear to the audience watching this review that I am skipping on certain crucial parts, and that's because I am saving them for the end. So I'll get to those in a minute, but the Doctor wakes up from space, we'll just say that that happens for now, and the saucy little devil uses a confetti cannon to blast himself back into the space station. You know exactly what I'm talking about if you've seen the episode. And there he is, back into the fight. And luckily and conveniently enough, he meets a couple called Gary and Mike who specialise in technology and in nursing. So that's sorted. So he hasn't really got to worry about much when he's got these two guys on his side, really. They make a cool team. And the story itself, the actual A to B of the peril and getting out of the peril, is fairly straightforward. It isn't too much of a complicated situation for them to resolve. I mean, obviously, eventually he does rescue all of the people from floating into space. Obviously, the show does go on. Nobody gets killed, really, except maybe a couple of people getting shot off screen, I think. So all is well that ends well, and there isn't really much to talk about in terms of that particular narrative in and of itself. But what is interesting are the things that happen along this. And Kid himself is a bit of a misdirection to an extent, because he is there for two reasons, as far as I can tell. One of the reasons is to allow the Doctor to display a moment of weakness on his part. You see, the Doctor guns for bloodthirsty revenge, because seeing all these people float off into space and knowing that Kid's plan is to use a delta wave transmission to murder the 3 trillion people watching this around the galaxy simultaneously, it triggers the Doctor, because it reminds him of when his people were destroyed in Gallifrey again. Okay, this isn't the Time Wars, by the way. All right, let me remind you of that. The Time Wars, that was old hat. This is because of the thing that the Master did during the Timeless Child arc. Gallifrey got zapped again after all the effort that they go through in the Day of the Doctor. I'm still a bit vexed about that, but you know, Gallifrey's still dead. It still triggers him the way it did in the old Russell T Davies saga for whatever reason. So he's after bloodthirsty revenge. He ends up just tasering the guy multiple times using a hologram and a glove. Very merciless. And this kid, who's Kid, he's lying on the floor getting zapped, and he's in pain and he's crying, and the Doctor is exercising no restraint. And as you know, when the Doctor does that, he's a man of kindness and patience and to a certain point forgiveness. So you know when he does this isn't his strength, okay? He's not Doomslayer. Sorry, I'm playing Doom Dark Ages at the moment. Alright, he's the Doctor, okay? He doesn't do this sort of thing. So it's a moment of weakness, and Belinda essentially rescues him from this, and he kind of just stops and goes, whoa, what am I doing? So if it wasn't for a person like Kid, who the Doctor calls out for being cold-hearted, and his motivations for doing this are really pitiful, because all it boils down to really is just him wanting to kill people, then you wouldn't get to see that. So Kid serves a purpose in that regard, and the Doctor kind of puts into perspective the fact that Kid is only doing this because he likes to kill, which is great, because it kind of takes away the element of him being this vengeful character through tragedy and through despair and through something that the audience should be sympathising with. The Doctor kind of shoves that aside, which I'm kind of glad about in a sense, because it makes this guy's motivations a bit more understandable. He's just a dick. I can deal with that a bit more. But most importantly, and I think this is where the episode really shines, okay, this is where the meat on the bones of the Interstellar Song Contest is. And I'll get to all the other stuff after, okay? This episode of Doctor Who represents what I consider to be really good and also not very good, in fact bad, about this new era of Doctor Who. Now let me explain what is good. What is good about this is the meat on the bones comes when we find out certain points about the character Kora. It seems that she is the singer who is billed to win this competition. And in the dress rehearsal you see she does this kind of very jangly, upbeat pop number. Now it turns out that Kora is a Helion herself. She is of the same race as Kid. Okay, she is a Helion. Helions have horns. She has cut her own horns off and hidden them with her hair. It's because the preconception that people have of this community, of this race, is wrong, is incorrect. It's based on lies and fallacies and misinformation. When she becomes her true self, not only is it true to her character, it is a personality that is a lot more meaningful, and because through its honesty contains a lot more substance and contains something that can actually show the rest of the world maybe something they didn't know already. I cannot understate, and I don't want to understate, because I think the episode itself understates through no fault of its own. I'll get to that in just a minute. I cannot understate how brilliant this final song is that she does, for a number of reasons, two main ones that I can think of. So she gets, when the Doctor rescues all the people and the show goes on, everyone's happy, they're in a decidedly cheerful mood considering they were frozen in space. I mean, that must be dead scary. But they all land, and instantly they're whoop whoop, all the aliens, all the pig people and all the rest, they're all having a great time, you know. I'd love to be an extra on that. It looks so much fun. An epic cast of extras was this one. So the show goes on, and she does a song which is a song from her own planet, and it's a song that the corporation wanted to kind of erase from history. The corporation have pillaged the planet Halia to extract not honey, but flavouring for honey. They didn't even extract actual honey, it was honey flavouring. And they did so by ravaging the poppy fields of Halia and thus reducing the landscape to ashes. You see it, the entire planet is on fire. It is a barbaric, hellacious quantity of destruction, and the fact that it is for such a pathetic reason, but they did it anyway, hits harder, even more so, I think. So she does a song which reminds everybody of the pain and suffering that has been inflicted on her people at the Interstellar Song Contest. The Interstellar Song Contest, of course, is being sponsored by this product that contains the honey flavouring that has been pillaged from their world. I didn't pick up on this until the second time I watched it, but she does this song, and it is completely and utterly not the song that she was billed to sing in the dress rehearsal, okay? She was supposed to come out to this jangly number with all these dancers talking about getting your shoes on and your feet and whatever, and at some point during this hostage situation, she decides, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give the people what they want, what they're expecting. I'm going to give them something else. Do not forget, she's doing this, she is transmitting this in front of 3 trillion people across the galaxy. 3 trillion people are watching this ad-libbed performance, which is a protest against the very thing that they are essentially sitting down and enjoying. And the second thing that is really clever about that song is that it is an intelligent contrast to what Kid does. Kid has the same pain and frustration and heartache and personal experience that Kora does. He is from the same history, the same downtrodden historical backdrop that Halia is, but he does it in quite a narcissistic way, a way that self-serves his need for violence, that does nothing but create more cruelty and creates a generation of more cruel people, as is very well articulated by Peter Capaldi in the Zygon Inversion episode. We all remember that speech. So he does it that way, but Kora does a protest of her own design, but it is a protest that doesn't put anyone at harm or at risk, but it might make people feel very guilty, and it might make people think not so much about the violence, but about the pain. Okay, the song allows them to feel the pain and the anguish of what was done to this person's planet, how this community has been completely and utterly brutalized in all of these ways. And the music is demonstrably a very powerful way of putting across strong emotions regarding bad experiences. And again, Kora has this huge trillion strong audience with which she can convey her message, and it is light years ahead in terms of impact and power than the pathetic little revenge scheme the Kid tried to do. So I guess in that respect, Kid is a very ample misdirection. He serves a very good purpose in demonstrating to the audience a bad way of projecting your pain across to millions of people, as opposed to a very good and efficient way of projecting your way. And the way that Kora does it is demonstrably a lot more effective. It's a great story, and I think structurally it is undermined by the stuff. All right, let's get to the stuff. Here we go. Okay, this is the talking point, and it annoys me that it's the talking point, because think about last week's episode, right? Think about the story in the engine and just how self-contained and how pure and lovely that story was. And it was pure and lovely because, with the exception of the cameo from a certain space baby, which I completely missed, it wasn't cluttered with other long story arc things, all right? It was just its own little entity. And this was the opposite to that, because it had all of these things. All right, let's get to the cool one first. So at the end, they are about to get into the TARDIS, and for the second time in that episode, they have a conversation with the hologram of a one Mr. Graham Norton. Betty's tongue! So, I love Graham Norton. Graham Norton's in Doctor Who. Excellent. It's about bloody time. Okay, if the world ends, alright, I want Graham Norton to be the one to tell me, okay? I thought this scene was great because it was at the end, and it was a cool segue, an aftermath moment into the apocalyptic events of the two-part finale. I also liked the fact that there was no coming up next thing. You just see they go into the TARDIS, they pull the lever, having been told by Graham Norton that the world ends, reasons unknown, May 24th, 2025. Ncuti Gatwa pulls the lever, the TARDIS goes red, and the doors explode. Episode ends. Marvellous. I love that, okay? Brilliant. That's exactly what I want from this kind of thing. That's how you do a long-running story arc at the end of the episode. Correct. Secondly, who else noticed? Nice little nod. I enjoyed this. Okay, nice little Easter egg for the story within story. Okay, anyone else notice this? When the alien lady comes out of the cryogenic chamber and the song Making Your Mind Up is played, she starts singing it, which turns it from non-diegetic to diegetic, and Belinda's like, huh? Like that. Okay, that's cool because it's the same as the always a twist at the end thing at the end of The Devil's Chord, and during that the Doctor talks about diegetic and non-diegetic sound. Non-diegetic sound is when it's a song that you can hear but the audience can't, and diegetic is the opposite. It's a song that is in the actual story that the audience can hear. And in this instance, we get another very small example of when it goes from non-diegetic into diegetic, and that shouldn't happen. It's weird. It's fourth wall breaking. It's a whole story within a story thing. It's small. It's subtle. I thought it was cool. I liked it. Okay, Susan. Great to see Carol Ann Ford back. Okay, I love Carol Ann Ford. You know I do. She's the surviving member of the original four. I love the original four. I love the Hartnell era of Doctor Who. To see her back, in essence, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I just do not know why in the blue hell it happened in this episode so suddenly out of the blue. I mean, what a way to undermine an impact of a pivotal story moment. She just appears to wake him up, okay? I mean, firstly, anything could have woken him up there, like when he was in space. It could have been, I don't know, just an explosion in his head. He might have been thinking about something nice. Maybe his kiss with Rogue or something like that, you know? Or the giggle. What if it was the giggle? That would have been cool. It's something we're already aware of, basically, that woke him up. It's one of the things that happen in this episode which completely overshadows the integrity of the episode itself, because it's one of the things that people are going to be talking about now. It's what all the YouTube thumbnails are going to be, except for the other thing. Okay, 1 minute, please. Susan appearing like this, if it was at the end of another episode, if it was at the end of a season finale, if it was at the beginning of an opening episode of a series, if it was right at the start of an episode to an opening series, it would have worked much better. If there was some kind of build to it, if there was like a distant drum roll getting faster and faster, if there was something that kind of put this into a bit more perspective than to suddenly have her there waking the Doctor up in space. It's like, it should be so shocking and so brilliant to see Susan back, but it just kind of felt like a really flat impact. I think in this series alone, if they'd have done that in Lux, for example, it would have been much more appropriate, because Lux is a Russell T Davies episode which dealt with the Pantheon gods, so it served as a tool to feed into the larger narrative anyway, so why didn't they just put that in there and it fit? So I think it kind of undermines the quality of the episode having this there for no apparent reason. I mean, yeah, the Doctor has got to find her and everything, but he's not doing that now, is he? He's getting Belinda home, so they're putting this in here and they're just crossing the narratives. And I think this is the problem that Doctor Who has in this day and age, is they're just trying to stuff too many story arcs in at once. And I think when they do that in TV shows, they all kind of just cancel each other out. They become less than the sum of their parts. They dilute each other, they neutralise each other. And Miss Flood, okay, drum roll. Hang on. Get my pen. Alright, she's the Rani. Okay. Some people predicted that. Fine. Sorry, I made everything rumble when I closed my drawer there. She's the Rani. Cool. Alright, I can live with that. That's fine. Yeah. Time Lord thing with the Missy, sort of the same. I'm less excited about her having Conrad Clark now that I know she's a Rani. It's just an evil Time Lord scheme, like the kind of thing that the Master or Missy would do, or the meddling monk in Big Finish. She's a Time Lord, she's a Rani, cool, she regenerates. New actress playing her. She looks cool, great. She looks evil and Rani-ish. I'm all in. Except I think as soon as you realise who Anita Dobson's character is, as soon as the lift is being lifted, the rug is immediately pulled from her, because she simply regenerates into another person, essentially. Even Derek Jacobi's Master got more screen time than that, to do his thing to an extent, to change from Professor Yana into the Master before he regenerated into Johnson. And yeah, I know you're thinking, yeah, it's a bi-regeneration, so she's still there, but she's not really, is there? Because she instantly turns into this kind of milquetoast yes lady who says yes to everything that the real Rani supposedly says. So as soon as we find out who Anita Dobson is, this weird character who's been floating around, staring at the camera and winking and meddling to a degree in the Doctor's stuff, as soon as the lid is lifted off of that mystery, she becomes a sidekick straight away. I just don't think that works, and time will tell where the whole thing with the Rani goes. I'm glad to see her back, by the way. I like the Rani. I like the old school Rani in Mark of the Rani and Time in the Rani. They're both really fun episodes, and I always thought she was a cool villain. And it's great in essence to see her again, but again, like with the Susan thing, okay, I think the impact of it was a little bit dull and could have been done better. And I think most importantly, and most tragically, I think the fact that they were put in this particular episode just undersells the quality of the episode itself. So my final verdict is this. I think in and of itself, the Interstellar Song Contest is an intelligent, entertaining and exciting episode that gives out the more you watch it. It kind of starts like a straight, standard hijack story, and then it gradually develops into a more nuanced, more poignant and just smarter, cleverer story. I genuinely think Juno Dawson has created a gem here. Unfortunately, the entire thing is downtrodden and undercut by the bigger, long-term Russell T Davies stuff that just didn't need to be here. I'm going to say it again, I'm going to make a reference to The Story in the Engine again, an episode that proves infallibly that you don't need other things to make it good, that the other elements, when they come into something like this, they simply dilute the whole experience and everything cancels each other out. The Story in the Engine was just there on its own. It was a story that had loads of things to gorge on, loads of breathing space, and because of that, it was an absolute narrative success, and it will be remembered for eons and generations of Doctor Who to come. And I think Interstellar Song Contest had the makings of that. But you put the Susan thing and the Rani thing in, and you could have put those anywhere in the series, and you decided to put it in this episode, and I kind of just don't think that that's fair. I think it almost ruined it, but not quite. Yeah, I don't know. I just think they went about this all wrong, and I just don't think a story like this that had a lot to say for itself was the time and the place. So did I like it? Yes. Did I like how it was presented? Not really. Did I think it had a clear and consistent personality of its own? To an extent. There is, of course, the possibility that I'm just being a little bit too nitpicky here. That does happen. Just get in the comments and tell me, am I wrong about this? Does the Rani and Susan really spoil the enjoyment of the Interstellar Song Contest, or is it just a little bit of icing on the cake? Juno Dawson has proven in this instance that she knows how to write a cool story that has meat on its bones and a lot of things to take away and to think about. So bravo, overall Interstellar Song Contest in and of itself, great stuff. I'm just being increasingly controlling over what I like about Doctor Who. Anyway, yes, thank you for watching this review, and I hope you're all doing okay. In the meantime, if you want to check me out on social media, please visit me on Blue Sky at thechosenchimp.bsky.org. You can also check me out on my Patreon page at patreon.com/thechosenchimp, where you can become a distinguished follower for just £1 a month, and you can request your Doctor Who topic for discussion, and I will mention your name in these videos. TikTok, I will be uploading short form versions of my reviews. I'm hoping to get most of those out next week as a little precursor to the finale, and just to summarise some of the waffle that I have subjected you, the poor viewer, to over the past 6 or so weeks. And there you have it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Be safe and well to all of you, and most importantly, for the love of Pete and his world, have a good one.